Okay, so we're ready to start. Thanks a lot. Welcome. Um, we wanted to start by saying that we express our support and solidarity to everyone in Colombia, given the current political and human crisis. The situation is very serious. And we thank Diego Piñeiros and Elkin Calderon to take the time to be here with us, knowing this situation, and anyone else from Colombia. At the end of this conversation, Diego and Elkin will take 5 minutes to explain what we can do to help, at least to visualize what is happening. And they are very worried as they should. And but today we're going to have a dialogue that, of course, as you will see, there's as especially Diego Piñeiros and Elkin will show, there's a lot of connections from the work that they will present to the current situation. And okay, so I'll start by doing a very brief introduction to both Tania Candiani and Calderon and Piñeiros. Sorry, my voice is not it's not the best day for my voice. But so Tania Candiani, an artist from Mexico, is an artist whose practice spans through various media and practices, exploring the complex intersections of phonetic, graphic, linguistic, symbolic, and technological languages. She frequently develops site-specific projects due to her particular interest in researching historical and social links that are triggered by notions of place. Tania Candiani has been a fellow of the National System of Creators of Mexico since 2012. She received the Guggenheim Grant for the Arts in 2011 and the Research Grant for Artists awarded by the Smithsonian Institution in 2018. The artist represented Mexico at the 56th Venice Biennale in 2015. And I'll go to, and Calderon and Piñeiros, Elkin Calderon and Diego Piñeiros Garcia are a Colombian collective that have worked together since 2013. The research-based artistic projects question hegemonic forms of knowledge and power materialized in technologies, infrastructures, and landscapes. They are interested in displacement as a metaphor of encountering other realities and creating connections between memory and ruins of the past. In 2019, they were nominated for Colombia's 10th Premio Luis Caballero, and in 2020 were awarded a scholarship by the Ministerio de Cultura and Escuela Taller Cartagena de Indias. Okay, so they're both the collective and Tania, they're artists from Entre Rios, and now we'll start with Tania. She will share the screen and show us some projects about the Rio Magdalena in Colombia.
Thank you, Emilio and Lisa and everyone, Diego, everyone. Thank you for being here. As Emilio mentioned, I'm very moved by the situation in Colombia, and because of the project that I'm going to show is related with that country and with the blood of that country, which is the River Magdalena. All my heart is there. Also, we will discuss a bit about infrastructure, and 2 days ago, part of a tunnel in a bridge in the subway of Mexico City just fall, and many people were killed. And it's about this again, the discussion of the the terrible way the works in infrastructure and the politics involved on that, and how that has these terrible consequences in real people. And so, okay, I'm going to share my screen. I have 15 minutes, right, Emilio? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So, here. In 2013, I applied for a residency in a place which is called Flora. It's a project which is leader is Jose Roca in Bogota, Colombia. And the project was about traveling to the city of Honda, which is in the margins of the Rio Magdalena in the province of Tolima, and spend 1 month over there just finding ways of feeling the city. That first time, I started sailing the Magdalena River from a distance in remote, about 3,077 kilometers away. I was guided by intuition in the research, and as any research, by serendipity. I approached the River Magdalena for the first time without feeling the humidity, without feeling the extremely heat of the place, without being bite by the mitch, these little mosquitoes that are around the river. I approached the first time the river from maps, just crossing my finger on the paper of the maps and imagining how the river would sound. For the Entre Rios project, I proposed Emilio and Lisa to make another navigation again from the distance, doing a rereading of all the material that I record and photograph during my actual real visit to the Magdalena River, because it was, I mean, now, if I could, I really would like to approach the river from a very different perspective, but I'm gonna just show some selection of that first time that I actually visited the Magdalena. As well, this image that you are seeing here is my participation in Entre Rios, in the exhibition that it was just open last week. I decided to put together in a dialogue these two videos that the one that is in the left was recorded in the Magdalena River during that residency period in 2013. And the one that we have at the right is in the Yamuna River, which is in India, which is one of the most polluted rivers in the world. And as well, it's a river that holds the story of a whole city and a lot of different cultures. In the right video, what we will hear now, I have a fragment of the video here. It is a song of a lament, singing Hindu. I didn't travel to Yamuna, so this is as well another, once again, way of traveling a river without being there physically. In both of the videos, the river never stops because waters never stop flowing. So that was the intention of this kind of homage of both water bodies. So this is part of my rereading of that first trip to Magdalena River. We took the car and we traveled by car from Bogota to Honda. It's supposed to be a very quick trip because it's not so far in terms of the distance in kilometers, but just leaving the city of Bogota, it took us probably 2 hours because of the traffic that is part of the cityscape all the time. But as soon we leave the city, we start going through these beautiful tiny roads full of curves and going down. And as the road progresses, I really has this feeling of get deep into the landscape, and the temperatures start going up. And the road, we passed a sign and it was pointing both ways at the same time. So I was thinking that maybe this is the way of no return. A place that it has a hole to jump inside this amazing landscape and the valley. Another way of approaching the place was, of course, about the senses. And I remember we stopped in a road and there was a couple of kids selling the mangostinos, which was a fruit that I never tried before. And it's sour and soft. And in that very moment, I really believed that I was inside the landscape from my taste and my sense and my senses. And then we find a lot of these structures and are part of trains and bridges and construction that were removed, or they just ended up as a plan and not a reality. And then we finally arrive to the Magdalena River, which is crossed by many rivers. This is the first river you have to cross for arriving to Honda. The bridges were very important for the city because first there was no way to cross the river. There was lines and cords and different ways of moving from one side to the other of the river. But those bridges were the ones that made the city of Honda in the beginning, I mean, in the born of the city, and gave the importance of it, because it was the pass from the arriving to Colombia region, which was called I'm sorry, I'm just like Nueva Granada. Bridges were built at the beginning, and Honda became very important because there was something in that part of the river that was impossible to go further into the Cuenca. And this was the first view that I had of the city. From this point of view, it looks like a big city. It looks still like full of life, but it wasn't. The whole city became abandoned mostly, and all the people that lives in the around the water lives from the water, and they said that all that they have is because of the river, but every season they lost everything, also because of the river. This is a beautiful painting from one of the explorers. This comes from the 1857, and that little bridge and that building that we see here is this very same.
Tal como se los contábamos al comienzo de Noticias 1, el centro de
I-
Honda, que es la ciudad histórica
I will
tolimense sobre el Magdalena,
translate
debió ser evacuado
afterwards.
por la creciente del río Gualí. Las aguas se llevaron un archivo de hace 400 años.
Lo primero que se llevó el río Gualí después de desbordarse fue el archivo histórico de Honda en el Tolima.
Let's say that the first thing that the river destroyed was the
Documentos que se
archive
encontraron
of the
en el Centro
city.
Cultural Alfonso Palacios Rudas, muchos desde 1698, desaparecieron cuando las bases de la edificación se dieron.
Se perdió sí más de 250 años de historia, entonces ahí hay documentos del siglo XVIII.
So all the
siglo XIX,
documents
casi un
that
90%
tell the
de la
story
ciudad
of the
se
city
perdió ahí.
were
Los barrios más
lost.
perjudicados por la inundación son Pedragosa y Delicias, que se encuentran prácticamente incomunicados porque su carretera de ingreso también la dañó el río.
Also, the road was damaged, and when I visited, it remains like that still. I mean, just the idea of the river destroy the archive, and it was not the river. Actually, what happened is that the river has been so damaged in the because of the constructions in all over the places, because of the bad way of administrating the infrastructure. Is that now, whenever the rain comes down, it damages all around. We know that the story of the river is a story of politics as well, and a story of wanting to possess the territory. That's the most sad part of this story. But at the same time, while I was there, I was trying to get a sense of what remains there, and all the people who live there are in love of the landscape. And I found this. I'm gonna just go a little bit quicker to show some of the pieces and approaches that I did during that project. There were many mural paintings all over the city, signed by this artist, which is called Olaya, with a cell phone written down. So I tried to contact him, and I finally did. And I asked him to paint for me one of these images of the river with sound instrument I put in the canoe. He also used to paint stones with the riches of the place. This is the painting that Olaya created for me. And this is the afternoon we recorded the video of La Magdalena. And part of this project was to create an exhibition where I installed some of these pieces. And here we are seeing the fisherman who sold one of his boats for me, and he baptized the boat La Magdalena. For buying a boat, you need to have a contract with the name of the boat. And the boat didn't have a name, and we decided to call him La Magdalena. This was an image of the studio I worked for 4 months, for 4 weeks, with in this kind of very heavy temperatures. It was an interesting way of experiencing a place. My whole proposal was based in understanding the difference of approach from, let's say, an Occidental point of view, because there was many documents written down by the expeditioners, which mean expeditioners walking to this land and this territory and rebaptize things. I mean, they rename many things. They rename the flowers and the plant and all the species, and in the territory with new names. Many of those expeditioners weren't very aware of all the knowledge that existed there before their arrival. There's many documents and books that talk about the indigenous people are like without culture, without knowing nothing. And it was just very few those who really understood that knowledge as the real knowledge with the territory. So I was trying to confront both points of view in order to understand where the dialogue of that things could happen for the future. I mean, in terms of understanding better, not just the landscape, but the way we can take care of the river again. So I visited this place, which is called Bosque Municipal Mariquita, which is where the Sabio Mutis, which was one of these expeditioners, set his botanical house. And he teaches indigenous inhabitants of the region to draw in the way they draw. So they make and they create these beautiful watercolors illustrating all the species that are in this specific place of Colombia. I wanted to create an herbario in the as a botanical, and as well I create another herbario based in the knowledge of the locals with completely different names that are more related with the shape and with the uses of the plants. So this is our place of working with, no sé cuánto tiempo tengo, Emilio, sorry.
You actually went over time, so
I'm sorry.
Perhaps you can wrap in, yeah.
2 minutes, okay. So this is, again, I call it a Expedición Botánica, and we found a printing place in Honda town completely abandoned. And well, this is all the work that we create with the people and the inhabitants over there, related with the way of organizing time, the way of feeling and taking care of the city, of their little city. And I just want to end it to say that to heal, I mean, we need to find a way to heal the river, and in this understanding of respect and taking a look of the past in order to not creating more damage. Okay, so I'm gonna end here. Sorry that I passed my time. I didn't have the time in my.
It's okay. So
Okay.
We have been discussing, and it's one possibility that Tania will upload all these sort of images in an archive to Entre Rios platform, but we'll see about that later. But now, so we go with Diego and Elkin, and I just need some instructions on what I should show first. I'm gonna be sharing the screen for them.
Hello?
Yeah.
Emilio?
Yeah.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I will tell you later.
Okay.
Yeah. Diego, where is Diego? Let me see. Okay, I want to just start saying hello to everybody. And Diego, I give you a big hug from here. You know, my heart is in Colombia now. This is a really difficult moment for all the country. And of course, we cannot begin this talk without talking about the political situation that is taking place in Colombia at this moment. The situation is very serious, very, very complex. Until now, more than 30 people have been killed by the military. There are missing people also, and reports of rape by these military forces. The right-wing government of the President Duque has decided to use the force and the police brutality to try to control this protest that is completely reasonable. And also, as an artist, we cannot be blind or to this situation, and this is why we start talking about this horrible situation and calling for resistance and solidarity with the people that are doing the protests. And we ask the President Duque not militarize the country. If he does it, it's only going to increase this massacre and all this chaos. People took the streets to protest against a tax reform, basically for the people that are not related with what is happening in Colombia now. Basically for more taxes. He wanted to put taxes for basic products as food, for example. Meanwhile, the government was even thinking in buying, for example, warplanes for an obscene sum of billions of dollars. And thanks to the protest, the government stopped this tax reform, and they said that for now they will not buy these warplanes, for example. But when you think that the government thinking buying military planes, raising taxes for the people in the middle of a pandemic, you can have maybe an idea of how the things work in Colombia now, and why the people is in the streets. So in our talk, we are going to talk about another kind of planes. One plane that has been flying in Colombia for more than 80 years, and it's called the DC-3. We made with Diego a project and then a movie that is called Flying Low. That is a short film, a kind of experimental film, and it's about the DC-3. But also about the relation with the landscape, with this idea of modernity. And Emilio, we want to start with the trailer of Flying Low. Okay. So this is the trailer of the short film. I want to introduce a little bit about this project, but for the people that is not related with Colombia, basically Colombia is a country that geographically is divided by the Andes. The big cities and the capitals are in this side of the mountains. basically the Magdalena River cross all the country from the south until the north, until the Caribbean. This is the important river now where all this idea of modernity came in. On the eastern side of the country are the jungle and the flatlands that basically are the 50% of the country. And is there in this huge territory that have the size of Germany, where is the less presence of the state, and where there are not, where there are more forgiven communities, many of them indigenous communities. These remote places don't have land transportation or infrastructure, and the only way to get there is by air or by the rivers. But even it's not many airports or any kind of infrastructures there. There are only short landing tracks in really poor condition, as you can see in the in the video. And in these landing tracks, only small light planes or the DC-3 can land or take off. And this is just an example, no? As an 80 years old plane is still used in Colombia, clearly shows the delay that we have in other levels, no? In education, in basic service, in health, in is a perfect example, no? That we still using this kind of obsolete machine there. Now, what is the relation of the DC-3s with the rivers? No, this is maybe some of you are asking why Lisa invite us to this talk, and basically with Diego, while we are doing the research of the DC-3 that we are starting in 2017, we realized the importance of the river in this area of Colombia, in the jungle and in the flatlines. And the rivers there are the way which the people and the communities use are a natural way to connect the people. No? It's not because, basically because it's not really airports there. So the rivers is the other way, the natural way to connect the communities. And this connection is not only for transport or only for cargo, but it's a way of dialogue, no? Of understanding what is happening in one community to the other. And another important thing is that it's another way to understand the time. Later, I will talk about one beautiful shot of the movie that where you can visualize this. At what time the rivers, for example, also was the airports. That is where the airplanes could land in rivers, meaning the 60s, 70s. But in the 80s, the legislation changed, and the use of these planes was forbidden because of the problem of narcotraffic and drug trafficking. No. So the government said, no, you cannot use more this kind of planes, no, that can land in water. But again, more than a solution, we believe that this is another example of the grown way in which the government tries to solve the problems. Gustavo Arias de Grave, a friend of us that is an old historian and that he really knows about this plane, say to us once, it's like if your partner is unfaithful to you, the solution is not going to stop using the bed, no, or throwing away the sofa. This is not the solution. So the government basically is doing this, no. So and the rivers in this area are used in a way to connect then again the communities by small boats. One beautiful example that we found is a kind of hybridization that we found between the boat and the plane. And we put this shot as an ellipsis of the film. The story is also beautiful a DC-3 was a crash in the middle of the jungle in a remote place in Colombia, close to Venezuela and Brazil, in one of these small corners. But the crash was not so bad, so they wanted to repair the airplane. So they put the airplane in a boat and transported by the river until reach to the city of Villavicencio, where could be repaired. When I was talking before about the relation with time, I remember that Diego, he filmed, he shoot this video, and he stayed in this remote place for days with no internet, no this kind of communications, and he was just waiting for the airplane, because we know from some pilots, because our friend of us now, one of these DC-3s had an accident. I know before we was telling to us, we know that what an accident happened in the middle of the jungle. How are you? Are you okay? And the pilot say like, yes, no problem. This was just another day in the life. No, for there was like nothing happened. But then he explained, no, but we want to repair the plane, but the plane will be in the river for maybe 2 weeks, something like this. And then Diego went to this remote place in order just to shoot this image. The image, of course, is a very, very poetic and very absurd. And we really love when as an artist you don't really have to do too much. I mean, when this image is strong enough and was there, no, was in the middle of the jungle. So maybe Emilio, if you want, we can put this image. Okay, I don't know if this was a good idea for the people that don't know the video. You know, it's like when you don't want to know the end of the movie, and I just did. I don't know if Diego want to say something about this experience. No. Okay, the other beautiful thing that happened in that shot was the rain. No? Was raining a lot, but just for this short moment. This is typical in the jungle, but for the shot was kind of perfect, no? But when we look all the footage, was incredible. But because the other shot was just in kind of this sun in the middle of the plane, and suddenly it started raining, and suddenly we had this perfect shot, and basically we're very lucky, to have this beautiful moment in front of our eyes. Of course, the idea of the modernization and this the idea of the absurd are together in Colombia. No, this is what we love, but this is also the thing that we have to criticize. No, because in some way you can just romanticize this kind of experience, and we don't want it. This is a dangerous line for us, no? That you see this kind of beautiful images and say, oh, but this is so beautiful, leave it like this, no? And this is a very conflict topic for us. The other thing about is the history. We really love to go deep in the history of what is happening. For all this history about the DC-3 in Colombia is amazing. We found a movie made by the Air Force in the 60s, for example, that at that time they did this movie that is totally incredible. We tried to found or to have the rights for this movie, but was totally impossible to have the rights. But we have one copy that is only for you guys. We want to show just a few minutes of this document. We couldn't show this in the film. Because we never take the rights, no? And of course, it's a document of the military forces. And in this document, they just pretend or to use the river as it's totally incredible, as a body full of fishes that somebody have to catch, no? It was incredible how they use also the language they use in to express about the indigenous communities. The document is unbelievable. We want to put just a small part. Emilio, if you want to help us. The alas.
Una atención no dispensada hasta ahora, que se disponía de una capacidad semanal de transporte de buen número de toneladas. Así nació lo que se puede llamar industria del pirarucú seco, que ha llenado el hueco dejado por el clásico bacalao de Irlanda, que hace años desapareció del comercio colombiano. Los cacautales antes abandonados han sido limpiados de la maleza, lo que en estas regiones basta para que nuevamente produzcan.
Should I go? This is the part you wanted to show, Elkin?
Yes.
Para enviarla a Bogotá por Satena. La facilidad de transporte dada por las nuevas tarifas ha llevado nueva vida a los lagos y ríos con la presencia de pescadores y la aparición de un nuevo tipo de comerciante que en un cayuco, unas veces movido por motor y otras a canalete, va comprando por los tambos productos que antes carecían de valor. Como consecuencia de esta demanda inesperada, surgen nuevas plantaciones tímidamente porque el indio no desbosca hasta que el árbol no alcanza 1 metro de altura. Leticia, nuestro puerto al Atlántico, recibe hoy barcos de gran tonelaje que antes seguían hasta Iquitos sin detenerse. El establecimiento de la aduana en Leticia permite la entrada de mercancías llegadas desde Europa o del lejano oriente.
Yes, until you can pause it if you want. So yeah, this document in the last part they said that the Amazon River now is important because now they can receive different products from Europe and from the Middle East. No, this is totally crazy, this idea that they had at this moment. But also is incredible, but because never happened. No. We are really lucky also because in the middle of this these crazy ideas. Never the government never really had the money to do this. Basically, the rivers then are the highways in the jungle, no? And it's beautiful how they are connected now with the airplanes, especially with the DC-3. And for us, it's really complex and really like this idea of how an airplane as a DC-3 is a symbol of resistance now, no? Because the government now want to take off these kind of DC-3s because they say no, are dangerous and are really obsolete, but at the same time they cannot do anything, they are not making new airports. So the only solution is still with the DC-3s for these communities. And it's incredible how these obsolete machines now is just the symbol of resistance, no, for these communities, for the pilots, and how this machine that becomes as a symbol of progress now is a symbol of the opposite, no? Okay, I think this is more or less the idea of the film. I don't know if Diego want to say something at the end.
Yeah, I think it's good that we leave some minutes to questions. I think it's very interesting how these both of the works they talk about many ambivalences and anachronisms, ambivalences in aesthetically, politically, in terms of progress, modernization, and so I think it's really I think it's better if we open up to comments or questions. So if anyone wants to say something, just go ahead and say it, or just put a question on the chat, or however you like.
Rory has his hand up.
Okay.
Hello? Okay. Am I unmuted? Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Thank you very much. Can I have two questions, or is that too greedy? Can I have two?
I think you can have.
One question for Tanya. I don't know whether you know this, but or whether it was intentional, but there is a connection between the two rivers, the Indian River and the Magdalena, which is in the mangosteen that you mentioned. I don't know whether you thought about this. So the mangosteen was brought in the early 1840s from Southeast Asia it arrived up the Magdalena thanks to British prospectors in tobacco. They found that some of the first tobacco plantations were planted along la Ribera del Magdalena, no? Near entre Mariquita y Ambalema.
Sí.
So,
en el medio Magdalena, ¿no?
Medio alto. So, and I don't know whether that was intentional, but there's a fascinating story behind the so that's a thread, which, I mean, it's a beautiful example of how the interconnectedness of these waterways and modernity's operation through these connections transforms landscapes, you know, in a global way, long before globalization.
Yes, I didn't know about the mangostino, and yes, it is an amazingly beautiful way of interweave both rivers, and the situation that specific species was transplanted from there.
Next to Mutis's house, if you remember, Mariquita,
yes,
is the grave of Gonzalo Jiménez de Quesada.
Yes.
So I've done some work in the old Lazareto, the Leprocomio en Agua de Dios. And it's commonly said that Gonzalo Jiménez de Quesada, as well as bringing, you know, modernity and so on, was the first person to die of leprosy. And he brought leprosy to the Americas. So there are all these kind of stories nestled in the landscape there that speak to these kind of transcontinental connections. I don't know, it's something you might pursue.
Yeah, well, of course, and that was one of the the challenging parts of rereading the material, and that I just couldn't make it. I mean, I supposed to make a new video just interweaving both rivers and all this history. And as I mentioned it before, I made this third navigation from the distance, but the amount of material that then I started to collect and review it is such huge. It is a huge project. So I just start rewriting everything, and I couldn't make a new video for that, but I've been reading Wade Davis, El Rio, and all the story of Schultes and his explorations and his other connections. And now I have the Magdalena River of Dreams that just arrived as well from Wade Davis. So I just start reading more in terms of but there's just such amount of materials, and hopefully I will be able to share some of the links and findings from the La Biblioteca Nacional de Colombia, Colombian National Archives, I think. So they have digitalized an striking amount of documents of travelers, and the actual books are all scanned in, so you are able to read the books of real expeditioners. Yeah, but thank you for that. It's just beautiful.
And can I ask Elkin and Diego that
Sure.
I really loved your, do I do it in English or Spanish?
No, in English, no, we are.
That I was thinking about your video and actually how that final moment in the video, I watched it earlier, is not quite as absurd as it might seem, because it seems that actually all these transport technologies in the Magdalena, at least, have always been tied to the river. I mean, first it was roads were constructed to connect to the river, then it was railways, and then the same with aircraft too, right? The first airfields were constructed along the river's banks. And there's another connection. I don't know whether you know this, but the history of cinema itself begins, and cinema and aviation, with con el famoso Gonzalo Mejia Trujillo.
Yeah. This is one theory, no? But because the other one is that arrived from Venezuela, no? One history said that was from the Magdalena River until Monpós, but the other story is from Venezuela.
The cinema,
yeah.
I thought the story was that Gonzalo Mejia Trujillo, he was an amateur aviator. He loved aviation, fell in love with the first hydroplanes made by Blériot in Paris in 1908, managed to convince him to come to Colombia. And I think he was developing a special plane there was always the problem of where to land those planes, right? And so he developed two planes. One was called the Penidre, El Penidre Uno and El Penidre Dos. And they were both catastrophic disasters. We discovered that he liked transport, but there was a much better way of transporting people, which was cinema. So I was thinking about whether you thought about the connections between your own art form, visual forms, and cinema, because there's, I don't know. And all of those early films, those early silent films, keep going back to the same places as well. They keep going back to the river. So it's actually, there's a dependency. Modernity depends on something, pre-modern or whatever you want to call it, which, thought that, whether you knew about the story of Mejia.
Yeah, we read a little bit. Diego is very good doing this kind of looking for these specific stories. And when we was doing the research, we just read about it. The other thing that is beautiful about the cinema is that in this shot, you know that normally in cinema the things are coming from the left side.
Mm-hmm.
But in this shot, it's in the wrong way. Mm-hmm. But so when we was doing the edition, this was so beautiful, not to say, okay, but this is perfect that the the boat is going to this way, but at the same time the plane is in the other, no? You're thinking about cinema and this film theory. Another another point.
Pues la historia está al revés.
Yeah, exactly. This is what we said when we wrote, no, in that sentences.
Anyway, thank you so much. That's really thought-provoking.
Thank you.
I guess we can have a
No te oímos, Emilio.
yeah, just saying that if someone wants to have another comment or question.
Is it okay just to unmute? Just go for it.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for the presentations. I really enjoyed them. And I had a quick comment for Elkin and Diego, just kind of based on Rory's comments as well, which is, in a way, the absurdity of the plane is the fact that it can be seen, right? I mean, I don't know anything about aviation history or construction, but I would imagine that many kind of plane and plane parts are often transported via water in large containers where they're kind of then put together. So in a sense, the absurdity is less that it's traveling by water, because I would imagine that happens all the time, but that it's exposed and that it's this kind of object that's available to our sight. And then a question for Tanya. I was really intrigued by the destruction of the archive, and I just wondered if you could say a bit about the kind of documents that were held there. I mean, are we talking about land registry documents, and if so, was there then a kind of conflict over ownership of land, or what kind of historical documents were there, and what were the consequences of them being lost?
Well, it was also kind of documents about the construction, for example, for the bridges and land property, and how because there was a lot of industries over there. The beer factory, which was super important, and it was in ruins and appeared in one of the photos of the presentation. So all the story of the city, actually, from since the arriving of the first. Let's say, I will not say conquerors, but the ones that built the city. So yes, the trace of all the streets and as well these beautiful books of expeditioners. And there's a lot, not all the files that from Mutis were there, because he has his house in Mariquita, but part of that books as well for different botanic expeditions as well, and boats and ships and all that part of history as well. It was, as the Tiberio Murcia is the guy who appeared over there. He's the historian of Honda. He has a blog, so if you read the Spanish, it's he holds a lot of documentation and the story of the bridges and the story of the roads and the story of the trains as well. And he said that there's more than 300 years of history. So it was just, it's so terrible. I mean, just that image that everything is just gone in one moment with all over there, no? And it's what happened to the inhabitants of the river every year. No, and they said the river give us everything, but take us all as well.
It's very clear how in both projects there's a really tight mixed alliance between human histories and and territories and rivers. They're pretty intertwined, and but I think we have to finish with that last question. And I don't know if Lisa and Diego want to close with something.
No, I think we could. If there's maybe one last question, we could take it before we close. If there's someone else. Also to say, I guess it's so so striking. I guess we posed this question for this talk of who gets to tell the stories of rivers, plains, bridges. I can't remember what the other one was, but in a sense, kind of Tanya's images were so, and your own narrative of the challenges of making a new work for this project, which ultimately the river was kind of too much, wasn't it? I mean, you start the story with the disappearance of this archive, the way in which the river washes away this entire sort of history, this material history. And the essential work has been to kind of retrace bits of those materials and to try and think about their stories and assembling those in, let's say, a narrative or a visual or audio-visual form is really, really challenging. And just wondered if you could, as we close, perhaps say a couple more things about the specificities of those challenges, because I think it's something that we all confront, those of us who are also working with more text-based work. How do you negotiate with other voices or materialities in forms that are intrinsically human, as art is or as writing is? So do you have any kind of reflections from the pain of having to think through all of that stuff and try and make something with it? And where do you think it might go as you work forward with the project for Entre Rios?
Yeah, it was painful, actually. That was the word. Because I started writing like a diary, but a diary of a place that I've been many years ago. So it's a diary with new words because I have a different gaze of that material. And because I've been doing other research in the meantime, then there was no place for those old thoughts. Now it has to be like a brand new approach. And then I review my material and it was not enough. I was just like, oh my God, I should record completely different images. So this third approach to the river from the distance was super painful because I needed to have real footage again. So I really want to go again. I mean, I just need to be closer to the river, and maybe then I will be able to write down a script with this new approach, which is just like, there are years of relation of love with Colombia, because that was my first time in Colombia, but afterwards I've been there probably 12 times. I have a lot of friends. I have a love relation to the culture and to the people, etc. So now it's just like, I just need to go again. And in the meantime, I'm just organizing material, and I have several documents, for example, documents about the trains. So all the story about the trains, and I start just writing down in a more narrative way, but then how that point of view intersect with what I call my friend Mamo. So I call one of his friends to speak with Mamo and to ask to the Mamos in China from the Kogi community. They are an indigenous group that lives, they used to live in Santa Marta. The relation with the river. So it was the relation with the train. So there are many different voices, and it was very difficult just to make a how to say it, make a breathe. Yes.
Right. I would just to say that, yeah, there's another pain that I can sort of see in both works, and also it's related to how we listen to these non-human entities and how we have the responsibility to make works that talk either for them or we work through them. I mean, it's just very painful to see that there's a limitation in terms of our limitation to understand, apprehend completely these non-human things, and we have to deal with the tools we have, and so, well, that's an interesting pain to deal with, I guess. But I want to welcome thank everyone
Hey, we have one last question. If
Oh,
people
yeah,
need to go, please feel free. But this
Oh,
one's from Elkin and Diego. It's in the chat. It's by Luz Osorio,
yeah.
and she asks if the mule is an analogy as the only mean of transport that has survived time.
Yeah, basically, yeah, it's a symbol. We call the mule. Okay, you see just only one part of the mule when the mule go into the plane, but then it's another part of the movie when the mule have wings and become a kind of a criollo Pegasus, and it's a kind of hybrid mule. Mix between, it's not a mix between the plane and a normal mule, because this would be too literal and too stupid. But yeah, we just thought that was a more, it's a kind of more poetic symbol of not only about Colombia, but I think about many countries or Latin America at least. And for us, was important that the machine in the movie has a character. The machine is the character that are talking, but the real life, is from the mule. So the mule survive. At the end, the machine, we are not really sure. The machine now is obsolete, have 80 years. Some people said that the DC-3 will survive until 100 years, but the mule have thousands of years with us, no? So yeah, in this way, the mule is this kind of symbol. But yeah, the beautiful, or we changed the normal mule, and as I said before, then it's the Pegasus mule, the criollo Pegasus, when the mule have these wings.
That's great.
Can I add something? Just about an image, a very old drawing. I think it's a watercolor that I found in the archives. I mentioned it, and it's a mule with a piano in the back, transporting it to Nueva Granada. It was the city, so it's just like culture traveling, Occidental culture traveling in the mule. Yes, in the back of the mule.
Backs.
Oh my God! Yes. That's all.
Beautiful.
Then that image, nearly every 19th century story has that image in it of the piano de cola on the back of the mule.
Yes.
So many stories tell that or of that image.
Oh wow.
To play classical music in a concert room in the cities, right?
Amazing. I guess, yeah, just as a closing remark from me, Emilio, I want to thank Elkin, Diego, and Tania, especially Elkin and Diego, for coming during these difficult times. I want to remind everyone that Lisa has put in the chat, if you live in the UK, how we can help from here. And there's a template there to write to your MP about what's going on in Colombia. So if you do live in the UK, we really urge you to do that if you can. Lisa's just put it there again. And then finally, just wanted to say that the works that we talked about today, you can see them in the screening room on Livestream's website, which I'll just put in the chat now. So thank you everyone very much for coming.
I hope you can join us next Thursday, same hour.
Same time, yeah. So we'll be back next Thursday, and we hope. Oh, I just sent it to Lisa directly, but yeah, we hope that everyone can come back and that you enjoy the artworks that are on the website.
Thank you all.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Everyone. Stay safe in Colombia, Diego.
Stay safe, yes.
Please stay safe.